The academy floated above a blue gas world, held in place by rings of metal and light. Many species studied there, tall ones, wide ones, scaled ones, and soft ones. Humans were rare. They were allowed because they learned fast, not because anyone respected them. Rhea walked through the long hall with her brother Eli at her side. He was younger by 3 cycles and still growing into his body. His steps were quick, his eyes always moving. He tried to look brave, but the academy scared him. Rhea knew that. She stayed close without touching him. Students gathered around the training floor. This was not a real class, only a public practice where stronger students showed skill. Teachers watched from above behind glass panels. Cameras hovered, recording everything for later review. A large alien named Krath stepped forward. He was heavy and thick, with arms like stone pillars. His species believed strength was truth. Many students moved back to give him space. Krath looked around and smiled when he saw Eli. He walked closer, slow and confident. Rhea felt it before it happened. She moved 1 step forward, but a teacher raised a hand. This was allowed behavior, the teacher signaled. Display of dominance. Krath spoke loud so all could hear. He mocked humans and asked why such weak beings were even allowed here. Eli tried to answer, but his voice shook. He said humans belonged because they earned their place. The next moment came too fast. Krath struck Eli across the face with the back of his hand. The sound echoed across the floor. Eli fell hard. Blood spilled. His jaw bent in a way it should not. The crowd gasped, then grew quiet. Rhea dropped to her knees beside her brother. She did not scream. She did not cry. She held Eli's head and spoke softly to keep him awake. Medical drones arrived late, slower than they should have. Krath laughed. He said it was a lesson. He said humans should learn their limits. Rhea looked up at him. Her face was calm. Her eyes were not. She watched how he stood. She watched how his weight shifted. She watched where the teachers looked away. She memorized every detail. Eli was taken away. His jaw would heal, they said, mostly. That night Rhea stood alone in her small room. The lights dimmed to sleep mode. She did not sleep. She replayed the moment again and again. She did not think about revenge. She thought about time. On the wall screen, an announcement glowed. Graduation trials would be held in 1 year. Rhea sat on her bed and finally closed her eyes. She waited. The days after were quiet, too quiet. Eli was moved off station to recover. Rhea received one short message from him. He said not to worry. He said to stay safe. She answered with a single line. She said she would finish what they started. Classes continued. Some students avoided her. Some mocked her. Krath passed her often and smiled. Rhea lowered her head and kept walking. Teachers noted her behavior as acceptable. Passive, human, they were wrong. She changed her course list. She added anatomy, structural physics, species biology, combat theory without combat practice. No one questioned it. Humans often overstudied. At night she read. She learned how different bodies broke, where force mattered and where it did not, which injuries healed, which never fully did. She also trained quietly, not strength, balance, grip, angles. She practiced falling and rising again. Weeks passed. Krath forgot about Eli. He did not forget about showing power. Others suffered smaller harms. Rhea helped when she could, guiding them to safe routes, sharing notes, warning them when Krath was near. They began to trust her. One evening, Rhea stood in the observation ring and looked out at the gas world below. The clouds moved slowly, endlessly. A student stood beside her, a thin being with long fingers. He asked why she stayed. Rhea answered simply. She said humans finished things. The student did not understand, but he nodded anyway. Far above, the graduation timer continued to count down. Rhea kept waiting. Rhea woke early every day, long before the alarms. The hallways were still empty, and only cleaning drones moved silently across the floors. She carried a small bag of notes and tools, all carefully organized. Nothing she did could appear suspicious. Humans were watched closely. Any mistake could be fatal in the eyes of the other students or the teachers. She spent hours in the labs examining the bone structures of other species. Krath's species fascinated her. Their spines were thick, strong, and designed to recover from impact. She studied them with patience. She took notes on joint angles, reflex responses, and pressure points. Each movement she memorized could be used in an emergency, not to kill, but to control. Outside, the academy floated silently. The gas planet below roiled with storms that made Rhea feel calm. The chaos beneath reminded her of what she had learned. Humans survived storms far worse than this. Humans could wait and watch without being noticed. Humans could strike when it mattered most. She helped other students quietly. A small alien named Lura had been pushed down a hall by Krath earlier. Rhea had guided her to the med bay, ensured she was not seen, and offered silent advice on how to avoid future attacks. Lura did not speak much, but she nodded each time they met. Rhea realized that helping others was also part of preparation. Allies formed quietly without anyone noticing. Krath did not seem aware of her work. He strutted through corridors, lifting weights, shouting at students and showing off. Teachers smiled and moved aside. He believed no human could harm him. He was wrong, but he did not know it. Nighttime was the most important. The academy lights dimmed and students retreated to their rooms. Rhea opened hidden compartments in the lab and practiced alone. She built small devices that could measure pressure and alignment on limbs. She practiced moving swiftly across the room without sound. Her muscles grew strong, not by brute force but by careful movement and control. Once, a security officer paused outside the lab. Rhea froze. She hid her tools and smiled politely. The officer waved and walked away. No one suspected the truth. No one ever suspected a human who appeared passive. She received letters from Eli, who was recovering slowly. He spoke of pain, the tight bandages around his jaw, and the doctor's impatience. He told her not to focus on revenge, not yet. Wait, she smiled. He did not know she already had plans. Plans that needed a year of preparation, study, and patience. Classes continued. Humans were often mocked for their lack of strength. Krath laughed whenever he saw Rhea. He called her weak, small, and fragile. His voice carried through the corridors. Other students turned and laughed. Rhea did not answer. She only watched. The graduation trial schedule appeared in the academy feed. It was bold, announced for the next cycle. All students would be evaluated. The final trial would be public, broadcast to the entire academy system. Rhea read it several times, memorizing the dates, the order, the observers. Every detail was important. She began mental rehearsal, every scenario she imagined. What if Krath moved left, right? What if he attacked first? What if he waited? She created dozens of movements in her mind, imagining the human body moving with precision. Each day she imagined it, then practiced it quietly in the labs when no one watched. A week later, a small group of students gathered near her dorm. They whispered and watched her with curiosity. One asked why she studied so much. She answered simply, "Humans prepare." They did not understand, but they began to notice that she was not just passive. She observed, calculated, and planned. Quietly, humans became a small point of fascination. Rhea walked to the observation deck one evening. The gas planet spun slowly below. Clouds moved, light refracted through layers of gas. The entire world seemed calm. She clenched her fists lightly. She remembered the sound of her brother's jaw breaking. That sound would never leave her memory. She recalled Krath's smile, how confident he had been, how he had assumed humans could not fight back. She did not feel anger, only clarity. Humans were not the fastest or the strongest. They were precise. They were patient. They waited. They observed. And when it was the right moment, they struck with intelligence. Her tools, her notes, her small allies, her practice, all of it was preparation. 1 year would be enough. 1 year to learn, 1 year to wait. Then the graduation trial would become the stage, not for punishment but for balance. The night ended with Rhea sitting at the lab table, notes spread before her. She wrote down observations of movement, muscle tension, and structural weaknesses of various species. Every observation was a puzzle piece. Every day added more pieces. Outside, storms raged on the gas planet, but inside the academy the human girl waited. She did not hurry. She did not make mistakes. She prepared. She whispered to herself almost like a promise, "I will finish what was started." The academy slept unaware. The humans would be noticed soon, but only at the right time. Until then, Rhea would watch, wait, and learn. The clock ticked toward graduation, and the quiet human grew stronger in knowledge and control with every day that passed. Rhea's days became a rhythm, almost invisible to others. The academy's corridors echoed with the footsteps of students rushing to classes, laughter, and the occasional shout of challenge. To most, she was just a quiet human girl who always seemed a few steps behind, a figure easily ignored. But beneath her calm exterior, her mind worked endlessly. She had discovered that strength alone did not determine survival. Observation mattered more. Timing mattered more. Humans had evolved to adapt, and Rhea applied that logic meticulously. Every species had a pattern. Every movement could be predicted if observed long enough. Krath remained a looming shadow in her life. He still mocked students openly, still showed his power, still assumed humans were beneath him. Each encounter was a chance for Rhea to study, memorize, and plan. She paid attention to his gait, how he shifted his weight, the twitch of his fingers, the way his head turned before striking. Rhea joined the research team responsible for studying spinal structures of various species. It was a delicate task. She was not allowed to handle dangerous specimens alone, but she observed everything, wrote notes, and sketched diagrams. The human mind processed structure and leverage differently than brute force. Every day, she understood more. She trained herself physically in secret. Not for speed, not for raw power, but for control. Her muscles learned to hold, twist, and support rather than strike. Her body became an instrument of precision. She ran through simulated encounters in empty halls, learning how much force was needed, how to move silently, how to anticipate a sudden attack. The other students started noticing small things. A minor misstep here, a quiet warning there. Rhea helped them without being seen. One alien student, Balin, had been pushed down the stairs by Krath. Rhea had intercepted him, guided him to safety, and provided advice for evasion. Balin did not speak much, but his eyes now held respect when they met Rhea's. Teachers and observers noted her diligence but did not consider her a threat. Humans were predictable, passive, and often overcautious. This assumption was exactly what Rhea wanted. The academy sent her occasional messages about her brother Eli. He was healing slowly but fully. Rhea cherished those messages, reading them over and over. They reminded her why patience mattered. Her plan was not about anger or emotion. It was about precision and timing. 1 year of preparation would be enough. Her mental exercises grew more complex. She simulated fight scenarios with dozens of variables. What if Krath advanced aggressively? What if he hesitated? What if allies interfered? Every possibility played out in her mind. She anticipated reflexes, strengths, and weaknesses. She did not panic. Humans thrived under calculation. One evening, Rhea discovered an anomaly in the observation logs. Cameras had recorded slight errors in timing when Krath moved during practice. She studied the footage frame by frame. Each frame was a lesson. She learned balance points, vulnerable angles, and the exact moments when force could be redirected effectively. The graduation trial loomed closer. Announcements reminded all students that this was the final evaluation, visible to the academy systems and governing bodies. Rhea memorized the schedule, the observers, and even the environmental conditions in the arena. Each detail mattered. She continued her quiet guidance to other students. Laura, the thin alien girl she had helped earlier, now walked with more confidence. Balin followed instructions discreetly. Rhea realized that influence without recognition could be a weapon as strong as any physical strike. The academy's lights dimmed for the night, casting long shadows across the halls. Rhea remained in her lab, reviewing her notes, practicing small movements, imagining the final confrontation. Each day brought clarity, each night reinforced patience. The storms on the gas planet below reflected the calm in her mind. Chaos did not frighten humans, it refined them. She understood that her strength was hidden, but that was how humans won battles they were not supposed to win. Finally, a message arrived from the academy. Krath was officially listed as her opponent for the graduation trial. He would not hide behind allies. The final evaluation would test both their skill and their ability to control the arena. Rhea read the message carefully. She did not smile. She did not show excitement. She simply made a mental note of timing, distance, and leverage. The trial was approaching and she would be ready. Her room was dark, the screens dimmed. She traced patterns on the table, imagining the skeletal frames, the movement of muscle, the angle of a spine. Each observation was a step closer to the inevitable moment. Rhea whispered to herself softly, a vow that did not need words for anyone else to hear. I will be ready. I will finish what must be done. The academy slept around her. The cameras would record everything, but they would see nothing of what she had prepared. No one suspected that the quiet human girl was more patient, more precise, and more prepared than any student in the academy. The final trial was coming, and humans had already started their silent advance. Graduation day arrived with a quiet tension that spread through the academy like an electric current. The arena was vast, circular, with high walls and floating observation platforms. Cameras hovered silently, capturing every angle. Students and instructors watched from all directions. The air was thick with anticipation. Rhea stepped into the arena. She moved slowly, measured each step, letting the space reveal itself. Every detail mattered. The arena's floor, the distance between walls, the angles of the observation platforms, she noticed them all. Her eyes were calm, her mind sharp. This was the culmination of a year's preparation. Krath entered from the opposite side. He was taller, broader, and carried himself with the confidence of someone who had never been challenged. He grinned when he saw Rhea, loud enough for everyone to hear. He shouted that humans were weak, that she would fail quickly. The crowd murmured. Some laughed. Some were anxious, but Rhea's expression did not change. She waited. The instructors signaled the start. Krath advanced aggressively, arms swinging. Many would have panicked. Rhea did not. She shifted her weight slightly, allowing his momentum to pass, and gently guided him off balance. The audience gasped. He stumbled, recovered, and launched another strike. Rhea moved with precision. Every motion had been calculated in her practice. She did not attempt to overpower him. She redirected force, applied subtle pressure, and exploited the angles she had studied for months. Krath's attacks grew more erratic. Confidence turned to frustration. The crowd's laughter faded into silence. Krath lunged again, aiming to land a decisive blow. Rhea sidestepped, grabbed his arm, and applied a controlled twist. Not enough to break bone, but enough to disturb balance. She followed his movement, guiding him into a position where his own weight worked against him. The large alien thumped onto the floor, the sound echoing across the arena. He scrambled to rise. His eyes widened with surprise. No human had ever done this. Rhea remained composed. Her movements were fluid, precise, almost invisible. The audience leaned forward, unable to believe what they were seeing. Humans had always been underestimated. Now they were seeing patience and intelligence in motion. Krath tried again, but each attack played into Rhea's preparation. She had anticipated his strength, his angle of attack, and the timing of his reflexes. She moved him, guided him, controlled him. His frustration grew, his confidence faltered. She applied leverage at the right moments, forcing him to take the hits he had intended for her. Each fall was controlled, precise, and intentional. The instructors exchanged nervous glances. They had never seen a human perform like this. It was not just skill, it was understanding, anticipation, and quiet dominance. Rhea spoke once softly, so only Krath could hear. She reminded him of the year that had passed, of his arrogance, of the strength humans hid beneath calm. She did not shout. She did not threaten. The words carried the weight of certainty, not rage. Krath lunged one final time. Rhea's movement was fluid. She guided him, using the full knowledge of anatomy and leverage she had gathered for months. He could not rise. He could not balance. The crowd was silent, breathless. The cameras captured the moment, but they could not capture the quiet intensity, the controlled patience of the human girl who had waited for this exact time. Finally, she applied the move she had envisioned countless times. Not lethal, but decisive. Krath was immobilized, unable to continue the trial. He lay on the floor, stunned, breathing hard. The instructors rushed in, but it was clear that Rhea had complete control of the situation. She stepped back, relaxed, and surveyed the arena. Her calm was absolute. The audience erupted, slowly at first, then with overwhelming applause. They were witnessing the potential of a human mind, trained with patience, observation, and strategy. Humans had survived in harsh worlds, learned to wait, to watch, and to strike at the perfect moment. Rhea had proven that truth. Medical drones attended to Krath, helping him without disrespect but ensuring the seriousness of the lesson was felt. Rhea did not gloat. She did not smile widely. She remained composed. Patience had been the key. Observation had been the key. Preparation had been the key. Rhea's eyes found a small screen, a message from Eli. She felt his pride even from afar. She allowed herself a brief nod. The year of waiting, the months of preparation, the quiet work in labs, halls, and study rooms, all had led to this moment. The crowd's excitement grew, discussions spreading across the academy system. Humans were no longer just small, weak students. They were observers, planners, and precise actors. They could survive, they could control, and they could win without brute force. Rhea exited the arena, walking calmly, ignoring the whispers and applause. She had completed the task she had set for herself. Krath would recover, but he would never forget, and the academy would remember. Humans had a place here, not by chance, not by weakness, but by intelligence, patience, and quiet mastery. Outside, the storms of the gas planet continued to move. Rhea took a deep breath. The final trial had been more than a test of skill. It had been a statement. Humans did not need to rush. They observed, they waited, and when the moment came, they acted with perfect precision. And in that, they were unbeatable. The arena was silent now, the echoes of the crowd still lingering in the vast space. Rhea had stepped out of the immediate conflict, but the lesson she had imparted had settled into the consciousness of everyone present. Humans were no longer to be underestimated, and the academy itself had begun to recognize that patience and intelligence could surpass raw power. Medical drones worked around Krath, checking his body for injuries. Though he had been immobilized, the careful and controlled nature of Rhea's moves ensured he would recover. His eyes followed her, disbelief and grudging respect mixed together. He had assumed humans were weak, yet here lay the proof that one had learned the quiet art of precision, study, and control. Rhea did not gloat. She observed as the instructors approached, their faces a mixture of awe and nervousness. Reports would be filed. The academy would be forced to reevaluate its treatment of human students, not as weaklings, but as beings capable of observation, strategy, and perfect timing. Their place here was justified not by strength, but by intelligence, patience, and discipline. She allowed herself a small glance at the timer still hovering above the arena. The year of waiting had led to this precise moment. Months of observation, quiet training, and secret study had culminated in a display that would be remembered for cycles. Ria's mind had been sharp, her body an instrument of control, and her patience had been her greatest weapon. The crowd began to cheer, slowly at first, then with growing excitement. Humans had shown that they could survive, adapt, and win in environments that seemed impossible. Students whispered among themselves, sharing stories of the quiet human who had defeated the arrogant alien with strategy rather than brute force. Some of the aliens felt fear. Some of them felt awe. The lesson was clear. Humans were not to be dismissed. Ria turned away from the arena and walked toward the exit, each step measured and calm. She ignored the whispers, the eyes following her, and the applause. It was not about recognition. It was about principle, precision, and justice. She had kept her promise to herself and to her brother. A message flashed on her small communicator. Eli had seen the broadcast. His pride radiated through the words, and Ria allowed herself a quiet smile. The bond between them had been strengthened by patience and trust, by the understanding that humans did not act in haste. They observed, prepared, and when the right moment came, they acted decisively. Outside the arena, the gas planet below continued its endless storms. Ria felt the weight of the experience, but also a strange lightness. The trial had proven more than skill. It had proven a philosophy, a way humans approached life and conflict. Strength alone did not rule the universe. Intelligence, patience, and precise action could change everything. Krath was being assisted out of the arena. He looked back at her once more. No words were exchanged. The respect in his eyes needed no voice. He had been bested, not through anger, not through a desire to harm, but through calculated, precise human strategy. The lesson would remain with him long after he recovered. Ria's allies, Lura and Balin among others, approached her quietly. They had witnessed her preparation, her patience, and her ability to act without being noticed. They nodded, understanding that humans were dangerous not because of raw power, but because of their ability to wait, plan, and execute flawlessly. No one challenged her directly, for they knew what she represented. She made her way to the observation deck where she could see the entire academy. The banners hung, the cameras hovered, and the students were buzzing with discussion. All eyes had been opened to the truth of human capability. She did not seek applause. She did not need acknowledgement. What mattered was the quiet change that had begun. Respect was no longer given lightly, and humans had earned it through patience and precision. Finally, she received a secure message from Eli, who had healed fully. He congratulated her, spoke of pride, and reminded her that the humans who persevered, who observed, and who waited always triumphed in the long run. Ria replied with a single word: understood. It was enough. The academy would never be the same. Humans would be recognized as capable, strategic, and precise. Ria's actions had altered perceptions not with force, but with intelligence, patience, and perfect timing. She had finished what she had started, and the lesson would endure. She left the observation deck, stepping into the corridors where once she had walked unnoticed. Now, eyes followed her, whispers spread, and the quiet power of humans was known. The storms below continued, but within the academy, a calm understanding settled. Humans could survive, humans could adapt, and when necessary, humans could strike with precision that no brute force could match. Ria smiled faintly to herself. The year of preparation, the patience, the silent observation, and the careful calculation had led to this moment. Humanity's way, intelligent, patient, precise, had been proven. And in that she found satisfaction, not in revenge, not in anger, but in the quiet triumph of strategy, observation, and human will. The alien broke her brother's jaw. She waited until graduation to break his spine. HFY Sci-Fi.